Something that will never change. Know that we've got issues, but darling, I don't miss you. I love to be more than friends. Now I know I may be dreaming, our love has true meaning, and everyone around can see. Let me make this public, you that I'm in love with. Baby, this will always be. I'll be your friend. Promise I will love you right. Can I be your friend? Promise I will love you right. Can I be your friend? Promise I will love you right. Something that I'm sure you see. I know that we've got issues, but darling, I do miss you, and I'd love to be more than friends. Now I know I may be dreaming, my love has true meaning, everyone around can see. Let me make this public, feel that I'm in love with. Baby, this will always be. So can I be your friend? Promise I will love you right. Can I be your friend?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inaugural gala dinner of the Black Business Council in the built environment. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BBCBE. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mpho Kalo. I'm certainly looking forward to this evening, and we will indeed have a splendid time together. And I hope the golf was great yesterday. I don't know if many of you attended. I hope it was great, and I hope you still have the energy. Judging from the list that the DJ showed me, you'll be needing that energy tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this evening is the creation of black industrialists in the built environment for the enhancement of sustainable economy. The purpose of tonight's dinner, ladies and gentlemen, is to aggressively continue to recognize and develop the black industrialists in the black environment through partnership with government, private sector, and the public. We'll be able to achieve the above said objective. We'll certainly achieve that, ladies and gentlemen. The heat wave that has been upon us is nothing compared to the heat wave that is coming from the BBCBE. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready for the heat wave. Ladies and gentlemen, just a few house rules before we continue further. This venue is a non-smoking venue. Funny enough, I saw some smoke on stage. But yes, indeed, it's not a smoking venue. Ladies and gentlemen, the bathrooms are outside. On the door, as you go out there, you turn to your left. It is the gentlemen first, then the ladies. And of course, I'm just describing the location and not any position. Ladies and gentlemen, this event is made possible by our silver sponsors, Whip Capital and GIB. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, let me call on to the stage the BBCB President, Mr. Paul Khole, to deliver the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Mr. Paul Khole.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our inaugural gala dinner. We had a wonderful day yesterday with our inaugural golf day, which was a huge success. And today we had a wonderful conference during the day, and we had very, very good speakers about the theme of tonight, that one of the Black Industrialist program. And I think tonight we are going to be having the minister, our land minister, who will then basically share with us what the future is in terms of the BIP. Can I start by welcoming various people? You're all important, but I just thought it's very important to note some of the colleagues who are doing a good job as black business. First of all, I want to recognize Mr. Kolani Kubeka, who's our Secretary General of the BBC, our mother body. That's good. And then our stalwarts, Tony Oliphant. Okay, there he is at the back. And Patrice Metzi. Okay, there he is. Tate Tatla Situke. And Kiwana Tate Churchill Mkhasi. And can I also welcome our celebrants? These are the people who made BBCBE what it is today. They started the whole vision and laid the foundation to where we are. First of all, please appreciate Mr. Bafanande Ndwa. Betende Ndwa is our first president of BBCBE. And then next to him, our second and our immediate past president, Dr. Tandil Dogu. And all protocol observed. Yeah, today is not a time of speech. We just thought let's come together, let's share the achievement that we have made to date. BBC BE is less than 10 years, but within that, we have achieved so much in terms of influencing policy with our colleagues in government. A lot of work was done by our two previous presidents, and we just took over and basically implemented the work that was started by them. And I think on the score, can I just say, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Mr. Paul Kole. Thank you, Mr. Paul Kole, for your opening remarks. It seems the mic is sensitive to my ice mint. All right, can I have sound to help me with this? But ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue. I'm sure you can all hear me, right? Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with our inaugural gala dinner, let me just mention here the Twitter handle for the BBCBE is @BBCBE_SA. So you can hashtag the gala dinner heatwave. All right, heatwave. All right. Thank you very much. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that you help me welcome Mr. Kolani Kubega, the General Secretary of the BBC, to talk about the development of the black industrialists in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Kolani Kubega.
At least one thing I'm grateful for is that at least this podium is transparent, otherwise you wouldn't see most of myself. First, let me thank the president of the BBCBE and his leadership for seeing fit that they can bestow the honor that I come address you today. I feel very humbled. I think important guests have been acknowledged, so I will not waste your time and repeat because they have been acknowledged. Except perhaps to also recognize one of the BBC presidents who is here, Sizukiswa Ntlangula, who is the president of BCA, which is the Black Conveyors Association, I think, just to recognize them. I'm recognizing her because when you're in the built environment, you cannot deliver and register houses without having a conveyancer. So it's appropriate that we recognize them. I would have come earlier today, but as you know, there's a bridge that is fallen at Sandton. I had to do research just to make sure whether there's a BE tender there. And I'm happy to tell you, that is none of us. You see, black business and BE is synonymous to low quality, people who don't finish their projects. But I'm sure you've been reading newspapers that malls that were not building have been falling, you know. Well, there is another bridge that fell in Limpopo, but it was built by a politician. So I thought perhaps it was appropriate, perhaps, that we hold this BBC BE conference on black industrialists at the backdrop, you know, of course, it's said it's a disaster, that there are people, I think, who passed on. But I just think symbolically it's important that we know that when we talk about corruption, you know, more often than not, when people talk about corruption, they say that corruption, the government is corrupt. But there's no one who can be corrupt alone. You cannot say you are corrupt alone. Somebody must be complicit. And if you look at the cases that the public protector, and I'm talking about major cases, I'm not talking about people who didn't finish paying their cars, but I'm talking about serious cases of where that the public protector are looking at corruption. Mostly it involves big established business. And we know big established business in this country is unfortunately white. So it's important to not to undermine the things that we do and the things that we stand for, because in business there are practices that are there. And in those practices, there is no color. Of course, there are some of us, amongst us, that are corrupt. And we must condemn, you know, with the strongest terms. But it must not be made as if black people are the ones who are really corrupt. You've heard of transfer pricing in the mining sector, where the mining companies establish, you know, front companies in some of these islands where people pay less tax. And when they sell the minerals that they dig out of the soil of the motherland, they then sell it first to themselves. You know, whether it's in Mauritius or in Seychelles, they sell to themselves at a much lower price, you see. And then it is those businesses which are in those countries that then sell in the right price. So that's what is called transfer pricing. In other words, they're fleecing this economy of the tax that they're supposed to be paying. I mean, that's corruption. I think we know who the Competition Commission on a daily basis is speaking to. There's bread corruption, there's cement corruption, there's corruption. So it's not a black thing. But it doesn't mean that there are no corrupt black people. I just wish I could say that there's nil. But I'm sure people who are sitting in the room, none of you are corrupt. Well, probably I am corrupt because I've spoken nicely to traffic cops when I'm in a hurry, trying to tell them, you know, and each time I always tell them I'm going to a funeral, you see. And the way I've said it, I'm sure most people I know must be dead by now. But I want to celebrate this night with the Black Business Council in the built environment. And I see the minister is pointing at me. Minister must come in because I'm going to refer to the things that the ministry does. There are some truths that we have to tell. You know, during the weekend, we were at the NGC, the National General Counsel of the African National Congress, representing the Black Business Council, of course. We have made submission to okay, I will. Minister, I don't take kindly to disrupting my speech. But because I voted you in, so I will tolerate you. Welcome, Minister. As I was saying, part of our contribution to the Economic Transformation Commission of the African National Congress, we had a very strong message as the Black Business Council that yes, we want to develop black industrialists, and we're continuing to do so. We have existing black industrialists. But there are contradictions within our own government, because the one department does the rules and we clap hands, and then the other departments write rules, that write off what we were celebrating. I think we all know the elephant in the room is the triple PFA. That continues, I think, to be the bugbear in terms of what we're trying to achieve. And I think the problem we made from scratch is that as we wanted to transform this economy, we didn't do what Afrikaners did. We wrote a lot of laws and regulations, using mostly white consultants, trying to do a black thing. And we ended up with some of the things that Afrikaners were very clear. At the time that Afrikaners took over in South Africa in 1948, Afrikaners were in the agrarian sector, which was in agriculture. And they occupied about 2% of the economy. And they had a serious Afrikaner problem, which was literacy. There was gross literacy, to the extent that when the Afrikaner government took over, they took it upon themselves to say, we will build institutions that we will use as shop floor universities for our people. We will give them opportunities to learn on the job. We will give them the best people to surround them. We will use state institutions to better the cause of Afrikaners. And there was no Afrikaner BE. There was an ideology and a philosophy that said, this is what we want to achieve. I think the mistake that we did, obviously, perhaps our hands were also tied in terms of perhaps the constitution and the settlement at Kodesa. But after 20 years, it has caught up with us. Because no matter how good regulations and laws that we make, there are valleys and pitfalls, stumbling blocks, because we cannot move forward, as it were. I get confronted on a daily basis, by black business people who simply want land to perhaps build something in Soweto, and they will struggle just to get that piece of land, and under our own flag. And then you ask yourself, if you just look just behind us here, there's the Mall of Africa, huge land, which was acquired, by big white businesses. And we have all these charters that are supposed to protect and drive economic transformation. I mean, if you go to that mall and you look at the boards that tells you who are the contractors, there's not even a single black contractor. You then go the other side of William Nicol. There's a huge place called Stain City. Huge mall. And the point I'm making is that we make rules, but it's not working. And when you want to make change, and this is what I also said at the end, you see, if you want change, you must break something, something must break. I think we must decide as black business that is what is it that needs to be broken. We must break something so that there must be real change. We talk about radical economic transformation. What does it mean? It means we must break something in order for us to have change in this country, because it is not working. In fact, major white-owned businesses are actually now digging their heels. In fact, they are changing and going back in terms of transformation. Just in terms of the large consulting companies such as the Big Four, I don't want to advertise them here. Just in the past year, over 12 black partners have been retired for one reason or the other, and being replaced by white CEOs who are redressing or going back. I mean, just in the banking sector, at some stage, probably in 2013, we had 35% women in senior positions. Today, it's about 12%. And therefore, we need to reflect in terms of, yes, we want to black industrialists, but what are those things that would enable us to succeed? Because we're still in the periphery of the economy. And the Black Industrialist, I think, program aims to catapult us to the Group 5s and the Marian Roberts, of this world, minus the bridge. We need to be able as black people to work at. It's not a BE company. I can tell you that, Minister. Therefore, we need to start taking ourselves seriously, and begin to say this thing is not working. What is it that we want? And tell the ruling party what we want. Because one of the things that we have said that the ANC has come up with radical economic transformation, but there is no basic framework. What is it that it means in real sense? And I've submitted a document in the Black Business Council that we must hold a radical economic transformation summit and mobilize society, your arts, everybody around the conference to say this is what we want as black business. And if the African National Congress wants our vote, then this is what they need to implement. We must be able to dictate, is this our constituency? Because I told them, if you look just at the stock exchange, at the top 100, I can tell you some of the black millionaires there are former DGs, which means what they've done is they've thrown the javelin out and they've taken businesses that belong to people sitting here. And we must tell these truths. So it is important that we must take ourselves seriously. We must begin, let's go back to the drawing board.